At this ESMO-20 virtual meeting, I'm presenting about the flaws in clinical trial designs that can skew the ESMO-MCBS results. Just to give the background, MCBS stands for Magnitude of Clinical Benefit Scale. And this is a scale, a tool that was developed by the European Society of Medical Oncology, ESMO, to help the stakeholders, clinicians, or everyone interested to evaluate the magnitude of clinical benefit from cancer drugs that have been tested in trials. So the basic premise for this, or why it was developed, is that we have a number of cancer drugs approved every year. Some of them are really good in that they improve outcomes for the patients, but some of them are quite marginal at best, and the clinical benefit would be quite minimal, and that has to be balanced against the side effects and toxicities from the drug. And these drugs are also quite expensive. So from a payer point of view, from a regulator point of view, or from a clinical point of view, it would be important to have a consistent framework to know which cancer drugs are providing maximal benefit to the patients and which cancer drugs are providing only minimal benefit to the patients. So this scale takes into consideration the magnitude of benefit in terms of clinical efficacy, for example, whether it improved overall survival or was it just a surrogate endpoint, and if it improved those outcomes by how much, what was the margin of benefit in terms of the hazard ratio, as well as the difference in median survival times. And in the latest version, they also consider the toxicity and impact on quality of life. So they provide a point system for all of these factors, and they come up with a final score. In terms of curative setting for adjuvant or neoadjuvant treatment, this score ranges from grade A to grade C, and grade A is the maximum benefit and grade C has minimal benefit. So ESMO considers grade A and grade B as major benefit for adjuvant and neoadjuvant therapies. But for palliative setting or metastatic setting, the score ranges from grade 1 to 5. 5 is considered the maximum benefit and 1 is considered minimum benefit. And ESMO considers 5 and 4 to be substantial clinical benefit. So this tool has been now in use for a number of years, and many people are finding it quite useful. But in my talk at ESMO-20 virtual meeting, I'd be focusing on certain issues in trial design that can falsely give a sense of greater benefit for a cancer drug than it actually is, because these flaws in trial designs are currently not included in the MCBS scoring process. As for example, I give examples of certain trials where the control arm was suboptimal. So if you are using an inferior control arm, then the cancer drug might look better in the trial than it actually is, not because the cancer drug is good, but because what you're comparing against is bad. Is not the standard of care. And I provide a couple of examples. One example where the control arm is, the control arm that is used in the trial is actually the treatment that has already been proven to be worse than the newer treatment. So we are using an outdated standard of care. Patients would have gotten a different treatment if they were not a part of the trial, but because they were a part of the trial, they got an inferior treatment in the control arm, and that's how the experimental arm looked better. And the other example is using a placebo when active treatment is the standard of care. So if the active treatment is the standard of care, but we are using a placebo arm, then the newer drug is definitely going to look better than it already is. Currently, the MCBS scoring does not take these factors into account. The other example, the other issue that I talk about is about crossover. When a drug has already been approved in a later line, but we are testing it on front line, then there should be a crossover so that patients in the control arm do get access to that drug when they progress, because it has already been proven in the second line. But there have been trials where crossover was not allowed, even though that drug was being tested in frontline when it has already been approved in a later line of therapy. In that case, crossover should have happened but did not happen. And there are also examples where crossover should not have happened, but happened because this drug has never been tested before, but crossover was mandated so that, in fact, patients lost some time getting an ineffective drug and were deprived of having access to a better drug. So I provide some examples for each type of these scenarios. And then we also discuss about the surrogate endpoints, because currently in the MCBS scoring system, we look at all the surrogate endpoints in the same way for progression-free survival or disease-free survival. But in certain tumor type, in certain circumstances, the surrogacy may be quite strong. And so it might be a very valid surrogate endpoint. So while in some cases, the surrogacy may be quite weak and it may be an invalid surrogate endpoint. Currently, we are putting them all together. But in future versions, we may have to make a note of that. And the other issue we also discuss is about non-inferiority design trials, because usually we bring new drugs to market based on superiority design trials in which we show the new drug is better than what we already have. But there are certain conditions where we test them in a non-inferiority design trials, which means we test them whether they are not worse than what we already have. There are certain conditions in which it makes sense if the new drug is cheaper, if the new drug is less invasive oral versus injections, or if the new drug is less frequent, giving once a month instead of every week, then it makes sense. But we have also found that in a number of trials, there have been no such justification, and still a non-inferiority design was being used. And there is also the question of non-inferiority margin, up to what margin of non-inferiority would be acceptable. Currently, the ESMO-MCBS tool does allow us to score these drugs that have been tested in non-inferiority design. But again, we'll have to make a note of what the margin of non-inferiority should be and whether it is justified or not. And finally, I also talk about the trials that have been stopped early because of early signal of benefit. And there has been plenty of literature to suggest that those trials that have been stopped early due to early signal of benefit, they actually overestimate the magnitude of clinical benefit. So that also has to be taken into account when we interpret these MCBS scores. So that's my presentation about. Basically, the bottom line message would be that the MCBS score is quite a helpful tool for us to understand which drugs are giving a substantial magnitude of benefit and which drugs are providing only minimal benefit. But the MCBS tool does not substitute for critical thinking and critical appraisal of the literature. There are various flaws in trial designs that could bias the results that I have just discussed, and these are currently not taken into account in the MCBS scoring system. So ESMO-MCBS can serve as a great first tool, but we should also put our critical thinking hat on while evaluating these trials. As I'm speaking, I just remember there was one more example that I talked about, that is about the role of subsequent therapies. There have been some drugs tested in trials where the percentage of patients who got subsequent therapies is quite worrisome. For example, we are testing premenopausal young hormone receptor positive women as a first-line treatment, and we see that more than 30% of them, they did not get any second-line treatment. Now, that is quite a big deviation from our standard of care. In our usual practice, we don't lose 30% of young women after just one line of treatment. But we have seen trials where this has happened. So the role of subsequent therapies is another critical issue that we have to take into mind. So these are all various critical appraisal skills that an oncologist or a reader of oncology trials must have. And without thinking critically, we may be blinded by just looking at the magnitude of clinical benefit. So critical thinking skills and magnitude of clinical benefit scores should go hand in hand.